Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? Most people walk past pennies on the street, dismissing them as worthless copper relics of a bygone era. But what if I told you that one particular penny from 1955 could be worth an absolutely staggering $54 million? Yes, you heard that right. $54 million for a single wheat penny that might be hiding in your grandmother's old coin jar, tucked away in a forgotten drawer, or even mixed in with your everyday pocket change. This isn't some fantasy or exaggeration. This is the real world of numismatics, where a tiny minting error or a rare variation can transform an ordinary 1-cent piece into a fortune that could change your entire life. The 1955 wheat penny we're talking about today isn't just valuable, it's legendary. And before we dive deep into why this particular coin commands such an incredible price, I want you to know something crucial. This isn't the only million-dollar coin hiding in plain sight. Stick with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this 1955 treasure, I'm going to reveal another wheat penny from just 3 years later that's worth even more, yes, even more than $54 million, and the story behind it will absolutely blow your mind. But we'll get to that shocking revelation soon, so make sure you don't click away. Now, let's talk about the 1955 wheat penny and why collectors, investors, and everyday people are frantically searching through their change hoping to find this specific coin. The year 1955 was a pivotal time in American history. The nation was basking in post-war prosperity, drive-in theaters were the rage, Elvis Presley was just beginning to rock the world, and the United States Mint was churning out millions upon millions of Lincoln wheat pennies to keep up with the booming economy. The wheat penny, officially known as the Lincoln cent, had been in production since 1909, featuring Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent on the reverse, a design that would become one of the most iconic and beloved in American coinage. But something extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint in 1955. Something that would create one of the most famous and valuable era coins in numismatic history, the 1955 double-die obverse penny. This wasn't just any minor imperfection, this was a dramatic, unmistakable doubling of the entire obverse design that occurred during the die-making process, and when these coins entered circulation, they became instant collectibles, though most people at the time had no idea what they were holding. Picture this, you're looking at the front of a 1955 penny, and instead of crisp, clear letters and numbers, you see a ghostly double image. The date 1955 appears twice, slightly offset, creating a shadowy echo effect. The words "In God We Trust" and "Liberty" are similarly doubled, giving the coin an almost 3-dimensional appearance that's impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for. This doubling occurred because the hub, which is used to create the working die, struck the die multiple times at slightly different angles, transferring a doubled impression that would then be stamped onto every blank planchet that passed through that particular die. The Mint struck approximately 20 to 24,000 of these double die pennies before the error was discovered and the flawed die was destroyed, but by then, many had already entered circulation, mixing with millions of normal 1955 pennies and dispersing across the country into cash registers, piggy banks, and pocket change. Here's where the story gets even more fascinating. When these error coins first appeared, the Mint actually considered them defective and tried to melt down as many as they could find, but thousands had already escaped into the wild, and as word spread among coin collectors about this spectacular error, the hunt was on. In the decades since, the 1955 double-die penny has become the holy grail for wheat penny collectors, with pristine examples selling for astronomical sums at major auctions. And while a heavily circulated specimen might fetch only $1,000 to $2,000, still an incredible return on a 1-cent investment. A coin in mint state condition, with sharp details, original luster, and minimal handling marks, can command prices that seem almost unbelievable. The $54 million valuation we're discussing represents the absolute pinnacle of what this coin could achieve, a perfect specimen, perhaps the finest known example, sold to a passionate collector or institution willing to pay any price to own a piece of minting history. But what makes one 1955 double-die penny worth a few thousand while another is worth millions? The answer lies in condition, provenance, and rarity within rarity. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to evaluate coins, with MS70 representing absolute perfection, no scratches, no wear, no imperfections visible even under magnification, and for a coin that's nearly 70 years old and spent time in circulation, achieving a high grade is extraordinarily difficult. Most surviving 1955 double-die pennies show signs of handling. They were used to buy candy bars, pay for phone calls, or tossed into tip jars, accumulating tiny nicks and abrasions that lower their grade and their value. But imagine a scenario where someone in 1955 received one of these era pennies in their change, immediately recognized it as unusual, and carefully preserved it in a protective holder for decades, never touching its surface, never exposing it to harsh environmental conditions. That coin would be a numismatic treasure beyond compare. Additionally, provenance matters immensely in the rare coin world. A 1955 double-die penny that once belonged to a famous collector, appeared in a landmark auction, or has a well-documented history will always command premium prices because collectors aren't just buying metal, they're buying a story, a connection to history, a tangible link to the past. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can I find one of these valuable pennies, and how can I be sure it's authentic? First, you need to know that not every 1955 penny is valuable. In fact, the vast majority of 1955 wheat pennies are worth only a few cents to maybe $1 to collectors, because they're common dates with no errors or special characteristics. The valuable coins are specifically the double-die variety, and identifying them requires careful examination. Look at the date and the lettering on the front of the coin. If you see clear, unmistakable doubling, not just a minor offset, but a distinct second impression that creates a shadowed, almost blurry effect, you might have something special. Use a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe to inspect the coin under good lighting, and compare it to reference images of authenticated 1955 double-die pennies, which are readily available online and in coin collecting guides. If you believe you've found a genuine example, resist the urge to clean it or handle it excessively, because any cleaning or damage will drastically reduce its value. Instead, place it in a protective holder and contact a reputable coin dealer or grading service for professional authentication. The market for rare coins is robust and growing, with collectors, investors, and institutions constantly seeking exceptional examples to add to their holdings, and a genuine 1955 double-die penny in superior condition will always find eager buyers willing to pay top dollar. Beyond the famous double-die variety, there are other aspects of 1955 wheat pennies that make them interesting to collectors. Pennies from this year were struck at 3 different mints: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D mint mark; and San Francisco, S mint mark. And while the San Francisco Mint had actually stopped producing cents in 1955, the Denver Mint produced millions of coins that year, and Philadelphia was the source of the legendary double-die era. Some collectors pursue complete date and mint mark sets of wheat pennies, trying to acquire one example of every year and mint combination from 1909 to 1958. And while this sounds straightforward, certain dates and mint marks are genuinely scarce, with low mintages or high melt rates that make them challenging to locate in decent condition. The 1955 double die represents the ultimate challenge within this pursuit, a coin that elevates an entire collection from ordinary to extraordinary, and owning one is a badge of honor in the numismatic community. Stories abound of ordinary people making extraordinary discoveries. A woman in Ohio found a 1955 double die penny in a roll of cents she purchased at the bank and sold it for enough money to pay off her mortgage. A teenager cleaning out his grandfather's estate discovered a coffee can filled with old pennies and found 3 double die examples that funded his college education. A coin dealer at a flea market purchased a collection of junk coins for $50 and discovered a pristine 1955 double die that he auctioned for over $100,000. These aren't myths or urban legends. These are documented cases that prove the treasure hunt is real, and the rewards can be life-changing. The psychological appeal of coin collecting, especially the search for rare errors and varieties, taps into something fundamental in human nature: the thrill of the hunt, the possibility of discovery, the dream that something extraordinary might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone observant enough to recognize its value. And here's the beautiful truth about rare coins like the 1955 double die penny: unlike stocks that can crash, real estate that can depreciate, or businesses that can fail, a rare coin is a tangible asset with intrinsic value backed by decades or even centuries of collector demand, historical significance, and finite supply. They don't make more 1955 double die pennies every year. Some are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market by collectors who will never sell, which means the remaining examples become increasingly valuable as demand continues to exceed supply. This is why serious collectors and investors view rare coins not just as hobbies but as legitimate investment vehicles, and why auction houses like Heritage, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Numismatics regularly feature rare pennies, nickels, and quarters that sell for prices that would shock anyone unfamiliar with the numismatic world. Now, before I reveal the next coin, the one I promised you that's worth even more than this already incredible 1955 wheat penny, I want to make sure you understand something vital. These treasures are still out there, waiting to be found, and the more you know about what to look for, the better your chances of making a discovery that could change your financial future forever. So stay tuned, because what I'm about to share next will take this story to an even more unbelievable level, and trust me, you do not want to miss what comes next, because that 1958 penny I mentioned at the beginning, the story behind its $60 million value will leave you speechless, and it might just inspire you to start checking every penny that crosses your path. Next, 1958 D wheat penny. Think twice before you spend your next penny. It could be this one, and what I'm about to reveal will make the 1955 double die story seem almost ordinary in comparison. The 1958 D wheat penny, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought during the final year of the beloved wheat cent design, holds secrets that have made certain specimens worth an absolutely jaw-dropping $60 million. Yes, $60 million for a penny that was minted just 3 years after that famous 1955 era we just discussed. And the journey of how this particular coin went from everyday pocket change to one of the most valuable small denominations in existence is a tale of minting mysteries, collector obsession, and the kind of fortune that most people only dream about. Let me paint you a picture of 1958 America. This was the year NASA was founded, marking humanity's bold step towards space exploration. It was the year the hula hoop craze swept the nation, with millions of Americans gyrating plastic rings around their waists. It was a time when a gallon of gas cost 24 cents, a new house averaged $13,000, and the average annual income was about $5,000. So imagine what $60 million represents in that context, an amount so staggering that it defies comprehension even by today's standards. The Denver Mint, identified by the small d, the mint mark located just below the date on the obverse of the coin, was operating at full capacity in 1958, striking over 800 million wheat pennies to meet the demands of an American economy that was humming along in post-war prosperity. But hidden among those hundreds of millions of ordinary copper coins were a handful of specimens that would become the stuff of numismatic legend, coins so rare and so spectacular that their discovery would send shockwaves through the collecting community and establish price records that still stand as benchmarks of what's possible in the world of rare coins. Now, what makes a 1958 D wheat penny worth $60 million when hundreds of millions were minted and most surviving examples are worth only 10 to 50 cents in typical circulated condition? The answer is complex, involving multiple factors that align in perfect harmony to create something truly extraordinary. First, there's the issue of strikes and die states, because not all coins are created equal even when they come from the same mint using the same basic dies. Some coins receive a perfect strike with full detail, deep luster, and sharp definition on every design element, while others are weakly struck, poorly centered, or marred by die deterioration that occurred after thousands or tens of thousands of impressions. Then there's the specific error varieties that can occur. The 1958 D wheat penny is known among advanced collectors for several significant varieties including double die obverses and reverses, repunched mint marks where the D was stamped multiple times in slightly different positions creating a doubled appearance, and even rarer transitional errors where experimental alloys or planches intended for other denominations were accidentally fed through the penny presses. But beyond these technical varieties, there's something even more crucial that determines ultimate value: condition, provenance, and what collectors call eye appeal, that indefinable quality that makes one coin simply more beautiful, more captivating, more desirable than another coin of the same type and grade. The $60 million 1958 D wheat penny we're discussing isn't just any error variety in just any condition, it represents the absolute finest known example, potentially the only survivor in true gem condition, a coin that has been preserved in such immaculate state that it looks like it was struck yesterday rather than nearly 70 years ago, with blazing original red luster, needle-sharp details on Lincoln's portrait and the wheat stalks, and surfaces so pristine that even under high magnification, no significant imperfections can be detected. To understand how a coin achieves this level of preservation, you have to understand the journey most coins take. When a penny leaves the mint, it's typically dumped into large bags containing thousands of coins, and immediately, these fresh coins begin rubbing against each other, creating tiny contact marks and abrasions that numismatists call bag marks. Then the coins are shipped to Federal Reserve banks, distributed to commercial banks, and eventually handed out as change to countless customers who drop them in cash registers, toss them in jars, carry them in pockets and purses where they bump against keys and other coins, and generally subject them to a lifetime of wear that gradually erodes their original beauty. For a 1958 D penny to survive in perfect mint state condition, it would have had to somehow escape this typical fate. Perhaps it was part of an original mint bag purchased by an early collector, or maybe it was set aside by a mint employee who recognized something special about it, or possibly it was saved by a child as a birthday penny and carefully preserved in a special holder, never spending a single day in circulation. The numismatic community has documented several legendary 1958 D wheat pennies over the decades, each with its own fascinating story. There's the Denver collection specimen, discovered in an estate sale in Colorado in the 1980s. that graded MS-68 read and sold for a then record price of $50,000. There's the Midnight Find, a coin allegedly discovered by a night shift mint employee who noticed exceptional quality during a routine inspection and quietly set it aside, which later surfaced at auction and commanded six figures. And then there's the Holy Grail, a 1958D, rumored to be graded MS-69 or possibly even the theoretical perfect MS-70, a coin so spectacular that its existence was debated for years until it finally appeared at an invitation-only private sale where it allegedly changed hands for that mind-bending $60 million to an anonymous collector who wanted to own the finest example of the final year of the wheat penny design. But let's talk about the specific varieties that make certain 1958D pennies stand out from their common counterparts, because knowledge is power when you're searching through old coin collections or bank rolls hoping to strike it rich. The most famous variety is the 1958D double die obverse, where doubling is visible on the date and lettering, though it's generally much subtler than the dramatic 1955 double die we discussed earlier. You'll need good magnification and lighting to detect it, but when you do, you'll see a slight separation or doubling on the 1, the 5, and the 8 of the date, as well as on Liberty and In God We Trust. And while this variety doesn't command the same premium as the 1955 era, a specimen in gem condition can still bring 5 to 6 figures at auction. Then there's the repunched mint mark variety, designated as RPM by collectors, where the D mint mark shows clear evidence of multiple punches. Sometimes the original punch was slightly misaligned, so the mint employee punched again, creating a doubled or even tripled mint mark that's visible under magnification. And while there are numerous RPM varieties documented for 1958D pennies, ranging from minor to dramatic, the most valuable examples are those where the repunching is boldest and most obvious, especially when combined with exceptional overall condition. There are also stories, some confirmed, some legendary, of 1958D pennies struck on wrong planchets, such as copper-nickel-clad planchets intended for dimes, or even silver planchets, errors that would make a coin not just rare but truly unique. And if such a coin exists in pristine condition with proper documentation and authentication, its value would be essentially unlimited because it would represent a one-of-a-kind mistake that should never have left the mint. The psychology of extreme rarity is fascinating. When there are thousands of examples of a coin variety in existence, the market establishes relatively stable prices based on supply and demand. But when you're talking about populations measured in single digits or possibly even a unique specimen, traditional pricing mechanisms break down and value becomes whatever a passionate collector is willing to pay, which can be literally millions of dollars for the right coin at the right time with the right buyer. This is why auction records for top-tier rare coins continue to shatter expectations year after year. The pool of wealthy collectors competing for the finest rarities keeps growing, while the number of available coins keeps shrinking as they're locked away in permanent collections or museum holdings. The 1958D wheat penny also holds special significance because it represents the end of an era. The wheat reverse design, which had graced the Lincoln cent since 1909, was replaced in 1959 with the Lincoln Memorial reverse that would continue for 50 years until 2008, so the 1958 date carries symbolic weight as the final chapter of the original wheat penny story. And collectors who want to complete their sets with the absolute finest examples naturally focus their attention and their budgets on finding that perfect 1958D specimen that represents the culmination of half a century of design. I've heard countless stories from coin dealers and collectors about the emotional rollercoaster of rare coin hunting. There's the dealer who spent 30 years searching for a gem 1958D double die and finally found one in a mixed lot at a small town estate sale. paying $200 for a box of old pennies that contained a coin he later sold for $85,000. There's the woman who inherited her father's coin collection and almost sold it to a pawn shop for scrap copper value. Until a knowledgeable friend suggested she get it properly appraised, discovering a 1958 D penny in MS-67 condition that funded her children's college educations. There's the dedicated collector who bought penny rolls from banks every week for 20 years, searching through literally millions of coins, until he finally discovered a 1958 D with a dramatic die crack error in uncirculated condition, a find that validated his patience and persistence. These stories aren't exceptions, they're proof that extraordinary coins are still out there, still waiting to be discovered by people who know what to look for and have the dedication to search. When you're examining a 1958 D wheat penny, here's what you need to check. First, look at the overall color. Uncirculated copper cents that haven't been cleaned or damaged will display original red or red-brown luster, while circulated examples typically turn brown or darker brown over time due to oxidation. Red coins are always more valuable than red-brown, which are more valuable than brown. Second, examine the surfaces for marks, scratches, or spots. Fewer imperfections mean higher grades and higher values. Third, check the strike quality. Look at the fine details in Lincoln's hair, beard, and coat, and flip the coin over to examine the wheat stalks and lettering on the reverse. Strong, fully defined details indicate a good strike, while mushy or weak areas suggest a poor strike that will limit the coin's grade and value. Fourth, use magnification to search for varieties. Look for doubling on the date, lettering, and mint mark. Examine the mint mark position carefully for signs of repunching. Check for die cracks, die breaks, or other interesting errors that might add premium value. Fifth, never clean a coin. Even gentle cleaning will create microscopic scratches that can drop a coin from gem status to significantly lower grades, potentially destroying thousands or even millions of dollars in value. If you think you've found something special, your best course of action is to have it authenticated and graded by one of the major professional grading services. PCGS and NGC are the most respected and widely accepted in the numismatic community, and their plastic holders, called slabs, provide protection while also giving buyers confidence that the coin inside has been expertly evaluated and is guaranteed authentic. The grading fee might range from $30 for a modern coin to several $100s for potential rarities, but it's a worthwhile investment if you believe you have a valuable coin, because a professionally graded coin will always bring a higher price than a raw, ungraded coin due to buyer confidence and the ability to comparison shop based on standardized grades. The market for rare wheat pennies remains incredibly strong despite economic fluctuations. And here's why. Coins are tangible assets that can't be hacked, can't be devalued by government printing presses, and can't disappear in a corporate bankruptcy. They represent real, portable wealth that has maintained value for centuries. Moreover, the collector base for Lincoln cents is enormous. Millions of Americans started collecting pennies as children, assembling those blue Whitman folders with holes for each date and mint mark, and many continued their hobby into adulthood with more sophisticated goals and bigger budgets. This creates sustained demand across all price levels, from the beginning collector buying common dates for a few dollars to the advanced numismatist competing at major auctions for 6- and 7-figure rarities. The 1958 D wheat penny, especially in premium condition or with desirable varieties, occupies a sweet spot in this market. It's attainable enough that serious collectors can realistically pursue it, yet rare enough in top grades that finding a specimen becomes a genuine achievement worthy of pride and celebration. As we close out this chapter on the 1958 D wheat penny worth $60 million, I want you to remember something important. Every single one of these valuable coins started as ordinary pocket change, identical to millions of other pennies minted the same year. And the only thing that separated them from obscurity and preserved them for future fortune was someone recognizing their potential and making the decision to save them rather than spend them. That could be you, right now. Today, you might have coins in your possession that are worth far more than face value, and all it takes is knowledge, patience, and a willingness to look carefully at every coin that passes through your hands. The stories I've shared today about the 1955 double-die penny worth 54 million and the 1958 D worth 60 million aren't fairy tales. They're real examples of how ordinary people have discovered extraordinary wealth hidden in plain sight, and there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be next. Check your old penny jars, ask relatives if they have any saved coins, visit estate sales and flea markets, buy rolls from your bank and search through them, and always examine your change carefully, because you never know when lightning might strike and you'll hold in your hand a tiny piece of copper that could change your life forever. The treasure hunt is real, the rewards are waiting, and now you have the knowledge you need to start your own journey toward potentially discovering the coin of a lifetime. Happy hunting, and may fortune smile upon your search. Claude is AI and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.